Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about crazy things that sociopaths and psychopaths have said to me in my life. So to briefly explain this, I don't have that much battery left, but we're going to go through it real quick. I've been close to a lot of sociopaths and psychopaths in my life. A lot is like a relative number, but I've been close to quite a few of them. I've kind of learned a lot about them through that process and the things they've said and done to me. I wanted to do this video just to kind of, I don't know, to kind of like bring into the public eye these things that people do and maybe some insight as to like why, and the answer is because they have a mental disorder and they can't feel empathy. So I wanted to do one video, and then I started gathering all my thoughts about it, and I realized I have a lot of information for one video. I'm probably going to break it up into several videos. We'll see how the first one goes. So in my life, I've been close to, say, like 3 to 4 sociopaths / psychopaths. I thought I would do a video for each sociopath, psychopath that's been close to me, just because I have so much information, and I'm narrowing it down to like the things that I think are the most funny. These people psychologically abused me and there's nothing funny about that. It's terrible, but I've gotten over it. I've gotten a lot better. These people are out of my life. I wanted to highlight the things that they said to me that I thought were really funny, really absurd, because they don't have empathy and they don't understand how the words they're saying come off to other people, or what they even mean to other people. And I'll preface this by saying I'm not a psychologist. I'm not even close, but I have a lot of experience with this, so I can't diagnose these people clinically or otherwise. But in my experience, I'm pretty sure these people are sociopaths and or psychopaths. I also wanted to say sociopathy, psychopathy, they're serious mental disorders, and if you think you have one of these disorders, you should seek help, even though most people who have this disorder won't seek help because they don't really think it's affecting them. But if you think you have this disorder, seek psychological help, talk to someone about it, and it will help the people in your life, but it will also help you, because through this maybe you can start to feel things again, feel empathy for other people. You might think you feel fine, you might think you're a confident person, but deep down you're really not. It's kind of the exact opposite of that. So if you think you have this disorder, or you know someone who has this disorder, encourage them to seek help, but also know that it's like 99% likely that they won't seek help at all. It's a serious subject, but I'm trying to bring some light into it, and I don't know, I think it's just a fun way to kind of cope with the stuff that's happened to me. I'm not mocking these people per se, it's just they've hurt me a lot, and I think a lot of the things they said and did were really absurd, and I'm also laughing at like my naivete in the situations I was in and the things I did and how I trusted everyone, believed everything they said. So that kind of goes along with my next point, that if you know someone who's like this, if you're close to someone who says and does similar things to you, know that this is psychological abuse and you shouldn't accept that abuse, and you should seek help and maybe set boundaries with that person. If not, cut them out of your life completely. It depends how bad the abuse is. So yeah, just keep that in mind. You can actually be really damaged by someone and how they're treating you, what they're saying to you, without actually being really aware that they're hurting you. I wrote everything down on this piece of paper, so if you see me looking down, it's because I'm trying to look at the notes that I wrote. There's a lot of them. This video is about one person in particular. Like I said previously, I'm going to do one for each sociopath I know. Pretty sure he's a sociopath. I'm going to change everyone's names that I mention. So this guy that I'm making the video about, we're going to call him Chucky. That's not his name. And if you know this person in real life, please don't contact them. Please don't show them this video. I've cut ties with them for a reason, and I don't really want them back in my life. Just to kind of set the scene, I went to graduate school with Chucky. We were both working on master's degrees in environmental science. Shortly after getting to know me, he wanted to date me. He asked me to be his girlfriend, and I initially said yes, and then I thought about it, and then I said no, like, I think we should just be friends. And I'll explain that more as I get into the video itself. Sorry, this intro is really long. We were friends initially, and then eventually I kind of started wanting to date Chucky and started actually being interested in him as a boyfriend, and that's because he manipulated me into wanting that somehow. So eventually we did date, but by the time we started dating, we had known each other for like a year and a half, and then we dated for like a couple months, and then we both left school because we graduated, and after that we broke up and never really talked again. Okay, so without further ado, here we go. I think a lot of this stems from him feeling bad about himself and him being jealous of me, and that seems terrible to say because I'm not necessarily someone you should be jealous of. I try to be a good person when I can, and so I think he was jealous of that. So the next thing is I would donate blood about like 2 to 4 times a year. We were at school. Schools have blood drives like every quarter, and so I signed up for the blood drive, and I was about to go to the blood drive, and then Chucky was like, oh, I can't donate blood. And I was like, oh, why? And he said some excuse about how he has like some virus maybe in his blood or some vaccine he didn't get or did get where he couldn't donate blood. Oh, you know what? I think it was the malaria vaccine. I think it was something like that. He had to get that. So he couldn't donate blood. And I'm like, that's cool. I'm still gonna donate blood. Like, you don't have to. That's fine. It doesn't make you a bad person. And so after I donated blood, he was like, you know, Nicole, it's kind of pointless to donate blood. Like, those donations just sit on the shelf and they expire and they don't even use them. And I was like, how? How could they not use them? It says there's an emergency. It says they need blood. And he was like, no, most of them don't even get used. It just goes to waste. So you're just wasting your blood. Cool. This is when we first kind of met and we're getting to know each other. I confided in Chucky that in my senior year of college, my dorm got bed bugs. I had bed bugs. I was really freaked out by it. And it kind of sent me into a psychological spiral where the bed bugs were exterminated, but I still felt like they were around and I couldn't tell if they were there or not, and it really freaked me out. It took me months and months to get over this because you can't always tell when they're there or not, and you can look at your skin and see bumps on it. Whether or not there are actually bumps on it, you can make anything into what you want it to be. So I had issues with that, and I confided in Chucky about that. And he exploited that, as sociopaths usually do for fun, basically. I don't know what I did to him. He just does this stuff for fun. So, he was telling me he went to a party at his friend's house, and he had a really great time. There was a lot of people there. It was like a college kid party. And he said that his friend probably has bed bugs. And I immediately got scared because I was like, if you were in his house, you probably have bed bugs. Because you can get them from just being in their house. You know, they can hide in your clothes, you won't notice. And he was like, yeah, no, I think he really has bed bugs. And then the next day, Chucky came into school and brought up the subject again and was like, hey, I really think I have bed bugs. I think I got bed bugs from that dude's house. And I was like, I don't want to be near you right now because I can't get bed bugs again. Please get away. And he was like, hey, want to come to my house for this party I'm having this weekend? And I was like, none of you have bed bugs. And he was like, yeah, no, I definitely have bed bugs. And then I went to his house for the party because I don't know, because I didn't want to miss the party. It was a weird situation, and he just brought up casually that he thought he had bed bugs, and then his house was fine. Everything was fine. No one had bed bugs. No one got them. One time, it was winter. It was like icy outside. I don't remember the exact premise, but I think like me and Chucky were going to our friend's house for some kind of party, and he was going to drive to my house and sleep at my house. He would sleep at my house a lot just because he lived kind of far away, so when we were drinking, we could walk back to my house and then he could just drive home in the morning. So he came late, so I had already walked to our friend's house, was with them, and Chucky came in to our friend's house and he told me about how my driveway was really icy and his car is really old and the brakes are really bad, and I parked my car, like I had a straight driveway, so I just kind of like drove straight down, and then towards the back of the driveway is where everyone who lived in that house would park their cars. So I parked my car kind of like directly just straight into the driveway and then right there. And so Chucky basically blamed me for parking where I did and blamed my landlord for not taking care of the driveway, and he essentially like drove into the driveway, couldn't stop because his brakes were bad, and like kind of hit the bumper of my car a little bit. Like it left like a couple scratches. In hindsight, not a big deal, but it was really more of just like how he didn't take any responsibility for it, because he explained the situation to me and I wasn't there. I was at my friend's house, and I was like, did you go in like too fast? And he was like, no, it's just like my brakes are bad. And I was like, so you hit my car? And he was like, well, like, yeah, kinda, but your driveway was icy and you should have parked there. Like anyone could just drive in and hit your car there. So he basically like hit my car, and it was really hard for him to acknowledge that he hit my car. And he eventually did like kind of acknowledge it, but like begrudgingly, like, yeah, I guess I hit your car, but all these other factors played a role too. So this theme in the things that Chucky says and does, it's that he doesn't like taking responsibility for his actions. And sociopaths and psychopaths don't really like acknowledging that they make mistakes, and therefore they're not going to take responsibility to fix them because they don't want to ever have made a mistake. The situation was kind of funny at the time. I don't, like in hindsight, this is one of these things I look at and I'm like, I don't know why I did this. Like, why would I ever do this? And I'd like to say I don't think I would ever do anything like this anymore. Like I said previously, Chucky would come to my house and we would go out drinking, and then he would sleep at my house because he lived kind of far away and he couldn't really walk to his house from like town where all the bars were. But I lived more in town, so like I could walk to a lot of places from my house. So this day he biked to my house, and his plan I think was to bike back home, but then he didn't feel like it and he was like pretty drunk. I don't remember exactly why, because I know I didn't drink because I was like a-okay to drive, but I think he had like a beer or a couple beers, and he wanted me to drive him home, and I'm like, that's cool, like I'll drive you home. But he also had his bike, and he promised me his bike would fit in my car. And if you know anything about bikes, you gotta take the wheel off of them if you want them to fit in your car. Like a lot of them have the easy release wheels, either the front wheel or the back wheel or both, and usually people take the front wheel off because the back wheel has all the gears and stuff attached to it. Basically like said I would drive Chucky home, asked him to put his bike in my car, and then I go outside and he's like sitting in the passenger seat of my car, and his bike is like in the back seat of my car with both wheels on, and the door to like my back seat is slightly open because it can't close because his bike is too big for my car. And I was like, hey, your bike doesn't fit in my car. And he was like, no, it's fine. And I was like, no, like we gotta take the wheel off, this is absurd. Like, I can't drive like this with my door open. And he was like, no, it's okay. And so I don't know if I can, like, display this. He was sitting in the front passenger side seat, and then he put his arm, like, between the door and his seat and had it, like, kind of, like, just holding the back passenger side door closed. He was just, like, holding the, like, the hinge part of the door, essentially, to, like, make sure it wouldn't fly open. Like, he couldn't hold the door closed, but it was open, like, maybe that much, like a crack, and he was just holding his hand there to make sure it wasn't going to fly open when I was driving. So I was like, alright, whatever, you only live, like, a couple miles down the road, it's not a big deal, whatever. So I drive Chucky part of the way to his house, and then, for whatever reason, it was a small town, the cops see me and they pull me over, as any good cop would. We pull over, the cop talks to me, there's like 2 officers, one gets out of the car and starts talking to me, and the other one immediately goes over to look at, like, my back passenger side door that's open. I guess, like, he wants to know why it's open. And he tries to close it. And when he does that, like, the one cop's talking to me, but the other cop is, like, trying to close the door, and when he's trying to close it, Chucky still has his hand, like, in the door. And so whenever the cop tries to close it, it, like, closes the hinge part of the door on Chucky's hand, and it's, like, pinching his fingers. And Chucky is saying, ow, ow, and he, like, looks at the cop, and he's like, please, officer, stop doing that. You're hurting my hand. And he says it with, like, this huge smile on his face. It was so creepy, and, like, I know he's, like, trying to be pleasant to the cop, but it's like he discarded all of his feelings to just, like, be pleasant to this cop who, like, I feel like any cop would kind of understand if you were, like, a little bit in pain, but he just seemed like he wasn't in any pain at all, even though he kept saying he was in pain, because obviously he was getting hurt. Basically, that happened. The cops talked to me. He's like, have you been drinking? I was like, no, I haven't. I'm just trying to drive my friend home. And they let us go, but, like, they seemed really confused. And, you know, in hindsight, I'm surprised they let us go with my door being open like that. Like, they didn't ask me to close it or anything. They were just, like, get there quickly. And I'm like, okay, it's only, like, a mile away. So, yeah, if anyone ever asks you to drive with your door slightly open, don't do that, because the cops will probably pull you over, and they might not be as friendly. And also, it's probably super dangerous to drive with your door open. Okay, so the next story, this happened when I was first getting to know Chucky, so, like, I didn't really know that much about his past, obviously. We just came to school at, like, the same time, and he was doing research for a prestigious school over the summers, and it wasn't the school that he attended for his undergrad. It was just, like, this school where he, like, started talking to one of the professors about their research, and he would look at things with this microscope a lot, and it was, like, a really expensive microscope. So basically he, like, did research for these people, and then at some point when I first started knowing him, he told me that, like, the professor refused to pay him for his research, even though they had, like, agreed that he would get paid for it, and he was, like, homeless for a while when he was in that city at that school, and he could, like, I don't know, it sounded like he was barely making ends meet. I don't really understand the details of it because it doesn't really line up. But essentially, like, the professor never paid him, and now it had been so long since he did the research that Chucky was pretty mad about it. And he told me, and I never saw evidence of this, but he told me he went back to that school, and I don't know why he went back there, or, like, how he could get in, but whatever, because he didn't go to that school anymore. He went back to the school and he stole the microscope that he used, which was worth, like, thousands of dollars, super high-tech, high-powered microscope, as, like, some kind of vigilante justice for them not paying him. And that's the story. Like, I don't know what ever happened to that. Another random thing that Chucky told me about himself when I was like first getting to know him, Chucky explained to me that sometimes he would go on the dark web to like look for missing people, because the dark web like is basically where all the sketchy things are sold on the internet. It's not really on the internet, it's like an extra internet. I sort of understand the concept, but I don't think I ever want to go on it. People sell drugs, people sell weapons that are illegal. Basically anything you want to buy that's illegal, it's on the dark web, and that's where people buy those things. So Chucky, being the wonderful vigilante justice person he was, would sometimes go on the dark web and look for people that were being sold and then try to get them saved. So he told me just randomly one night, like, randomly the next day, we were at school, he was like, last night I was on the dark web and I saw this guy listing this girl for sale for like sex trafficking, and I like figured out his IP address, and from that, me and some other people from, I think it was from Reddit, him and some other people from Reddit like traced this girl and found her location and called the cops of that town, and they saved her. Like, imagine just like barely knowing someone for like a couple weeks, and all of a sudden they're like, I was on the dark web, I found this girl and I saved her for like no actual reason. I mean, like, it's nice if he did that, I hope he did, but it just seems like a really far-fetched story. And I don't think anyone really goes on the dark web to try to like save people, except for like cops. You know, like cops probably peruse it, but it was just weird to me that he spent his time there, and like hindsight, I feel like he was probably doing more nefarious things on the dark web and just didn't want to tell anyone. We were part of a club, graduate student union basically, and we would table for things. We did something around this time that I think Chucky wanted the group to do. I don't remember what, and when I say we, I mean me and him. We would like table, just like have a table, sit somewhere in the school and like give people information about something. So because we did that, there was like some other event I wanted us to table at. I don't remember exactly what it was or why, but it was really important to me at the time. So I was like, hey Chucky, do you want a table for this thing? I think the graduate student union should table for this. It's kind of important and it applies to graduate students. And he was like reluctant about it, but for some reason at the end of the day he decided to do it with me. So we brought everything down, tabled for like however, an hour or two, whatever, and we picked up everything from the table and we were walking back upstairs, and I would carry a coffee mug with me at all times, and it had coffee in it, obviously. This isn't the same mug, obviously, because that mug's broken. I had it for a while. I don't know if I still have it or not. It might be somewhere else. I might have gotten rid of it. I don't really remember. But I'm using this as an example. So basically something happened because we were carrying like a bunch of stuff and we were about to go upstairs. I think Chucky started dropping something. He was holding like this big poster board. He started dropping it. And so I put down the coffee mug on the ground and I said, okay, don't kick the coffee mug, because it was right next to his foot. And I was like, I'm going to grab that thing. And I grabbed it, I picked it up, and everything was fine. But in the process, Chucky did somehow kick the coffee mug, even though I specifically said don't do that. And mistakes happen, like whatever. I don't know if it was intentional or not. I'm assuming it probably wasn't, because he seemed pretty upset that it happened. So the coffee mug fell, coffee spilled, and this handle part kind of like a piece of it broke out. So like it was still connected at the bottom and the top of the mug, but this middle part, like part of it was missing. And I was like, ah, man, you broke my coffee mug. And I was like kind of upset for like a second, and he was upset, and he was like, I didn't do that. And I was like, yeah, I saw you kick it over. And so he went from denial to like being really apologetic really quickly and promising that he would fix it, because I was like, you don't have to fix it, like it's fine, I can still use it, I don't even need to hold the handle, I can just hold it like this way, or like I could hold the top or bottom part, I don't really need the handle, it's fine. And he insisted that he would fix it, because it was his mistake and he had to fix it, and he was so sorry. So sorry. So, Chucky takes my coffee mug home. He keeps it for like a couple days, brings it back, and he had reattached the middle part of the handle with like some kind of resin, and I think it was like epoxy, which like I don't even know if you can eat or drink from that. I don't know, I'm not gonna think about it. So he attached the handle with like some kind of epoxy resin. The handle was pretty stuck, but he let the resin, like, because when you put it on it's wet and then it dries and it hardens over the course of like hours, and so he let it harden, and so there were these big drips of resin like pouring off of the handle, and there was even more drips like going inside the coffee mug. I don't know how he did that. Maybe I still don't know. I don't know how he did it. And he was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to like wipe off the excess resin before it dried in an obnoxious way." And I was like, this is like absurd, because it was super absurd. I was like, no one who actually meant to fix this will let that happen. You did this on purpose. But I didn't say that, because I don't know, I was just really confused. I was like, why would he do this? I was like, I could have fixed this better in like 10 minutes. And he acted like it was such a burden. It took him hours. He had to wait for it to dry. So like, I was like, this is like, why would you do this? And he got super defensive and was like, I thought you would appreciate it because you like things with character, and it has character. Like, anyone can just go out to the store and buy a coffee mug, you know, but this is unique. And I was like, yeah, like, I like unique things. Cool. I'll use this. And then I used it until like the end of the school year. And then I don't think I ever really used it again because it was obnoxious. If you value unique things, you still need them to function. Keep that in mind. For some reason, it just always was weird to me that Chucky did this. So he would make friendship bracelets for his like really close friends. And it's like, that's cool, you know, because he's friends with people from like all different parts of his life, all different parts of like the country, and so, or the world, I don't know, he traveled. The whole concept was like, you're connected to all these people by wearing this friendship bracelet, and you might not even know these people, but they're all friends with Chucky. So like, that's his network and it's your network, and it's like this big thing that you're a part of that you're not even aware that you're a part of it. Which, like, that meant a lot to me because I just wanted to be a part of something. But we'll move on from that. It's not about me. So, Chucky made these friendship bracelets by hand with, like, beads and these, like, I think, like, safety pin kind of things. And so, part of the disclaimer he put on the friendship bracelets was that the beads he was using were made for like fishing, to like put on hooks or like sinkers or something to like weigh things down. They were like kind of shiny, so they would attract fish. And because they were made for fishing, there was lead in them. And I don't know why that's like okay to put lead in things that we're throwing in the water. But besides that, there was lead in them, and people were wearing these bracelets on their skin every day. If you don't know, lead is a toxic substance. It affects developing children, but it can also affect adults. It doesn't easily get absorbed through your skin because it's a heavy metal, but you can ingest it pretty easily if you're wearing a bracelet around your wrist, and then, I don't know, you touch your wrist, or like it kind of big and touches your hand, and then you eat something with your hands. Like, it just didn't sit well with me. So Chucky made me this friendship bracelet, and I wore it like maybe once to make him happy, and then I never really wore it again. And he kept giving these friendship bracelets to our friends, and they were like, oh, that's so cool. And he would say, yeah, there's lead in them though, and he would explain the whole thing to them, and they didn't care. They still wore them because they wanted to be part of Chucky's group, and that is kind of weird. But they're probably okay overall. I don't know how much of an impact it had. It's just odd that like he couldn't get something else to make the friendship bracelets with. Like, because he knew the lead was bad, but he still used it anyway, and his whole thing was like, well, the easiest way for people to absorb lead is through inhalation. So, like, you're not really going to inhale, breathe in, like, these beads that are on your wrist. They're not fine enough particles for you to inhale them. So that was his whole big thing of like, yeah, lead's bad, but you're probably not going to, like, take that much of it in anyway. And it's really odd because we were environmental science students, like, half of what we were learning was like, this stuff is bad for you and you should be cautious around it. And he was just giving these out to people. Hi everyone, it's me from the future, but also from the past to you, because you're watching this all at once, but I'm not. And the video is taking a very long time. It's a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm sorry about that. So I'm still new at this and I'm trying to work everything out. So I'm going to end this video here, and I'm going to take the rest of the footage and make a second video all about the same sociopath that I was talking about, Chucky. We're calling him Chucky. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, like it, and subscribe if you want more videos like this. I promise they'll get better. So, but I hope you still like this one. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one. It'll probably be out shortly because I'm probably going to edit it right after I edit this one. Thanks. Bye.